I think first, when you just get into the world of psychology, a really interesting thing happens is that you start seeing patterns that you can't unsee. But then afterwards, I think you get used to it and then you start learning more and more. And then that's where the effects of it per se come in. And I feel like that's where your relationships, both to yourself and to others around you, become better, a bit more kind, a bit more honest, just because I think you have this sympathy for yourself and for other people, because all of us are just trying to do the best we can at any given point in time. And I truly believe this. And I think regarding my research, and the more I know, the more I understand that I don't know anything. And so I think then that becomes, my thoughts then become, okay, so I might have an opinion A, B, and C. However, because I know that most likely I don't understand a billion other things about this topic, I am way more curious, I think, about knowledge. And I think the more I learn, the more I want to learn even more, because I'm very aware of the knowledge gap that I possess.
When you say that when the more you learn, the more that you realize you don't know, do you have an example of that?
I think a really great example that potentially everyone who went to university could relate to is writing a paper. So say you have a thesis and you're like, right, so this is going to be the conclusion of my essay, and I need all of the people who wrote about this to agree with me because I want to get an A. And then you go in the rabbit hole of research, and then you figure out that actually there were 50 people who said that that theory was wrong. And then you go in a rabbit hole of doing a research about why it was wrong. And because in your head, you already changed your conclusion. You're like, okay, so they were wrong, these were right. And then you find a third and a fourth and a fifth perspective. And I think that just kind of gives us an understanding of, we know only a puzzle. So if you have, I think of life or knowledge or any subject as a puzzle full of a lot of different pieces. And so I know that I know one little bit of it, but then I'm also aware that I probably don't know the rest. And I think social media oversimplifies concepts a lot. And I think a lot of people are against that, or they always criticize the oversimplification of ideas on social media. I don't really see it this way. To me, it only becomes bad when people mistakenly start to think that seeing the puzzle is equivalent to seeing the full picture. So I think as long as we understand that there is a lot that we ourselves don't know, then you get to remove this level of short-sightedness, I guess, and start seeing the world a little bit broader.
Yeah, I think
if that answers your question.
I think you've absolutely hit the nail on the head, and I can build on it a little bit more, I think, because I see it as a shift from like a state of autopilot to realizing that you're driving this plane through the sky and you don't even know like where you are, what planet you're on, what the weather's like, and it's like you go from this automatic mode to starting to see the details of everything going on. Like, I'll try and put it in an example. When we're a kid, when I was a kid, right, you're told that you see the world, and you're told that you see the world through your eyes. And that is like the model that your brain uses to sort of make the world make sense of how you see. But then when I started learning about psychology and biology, I guess, as well, and learning about how the eye works, that it sees things through light, and that the image is actually upside down, but your brain flips it around. And then also things about, color perception on wavelengths of light and all this kind of stuff. And then deciding, well, what do you actually perceive from what you see? What objects do you notice? What things like actually hit your consciousness? Because we're always taking in this light from all the visual like landscapes we go through, but what do we actually notice? How many people have you guys walked past yesterday and you barely remember their face, but you saw them? So what makes things stick out? What things do you value? What things are salient in the environment so that you notice them? And that, Jacob, I think is what me and Masha are both on about here. Is there's this quote, I don't know if you heard it, Masha, that says the map is not the territory. And we go around with this map of everything, a map of who you are, what you do, what's important, what the world is, how you see, how you hear, what this object means, what you can do with this object, like little models, little puzzles, I think is what you use for it. But when you learn more, you realize that your map is not the territory, and there is so much more you can learn about the nature of everything. And that's almost like a Pandora's box moment where your mind is blown and you go, I actually know nothing. And I'm just kind of carrying out programs wired into my biology. But the cognitive understanding of it is really fascinating, I think. And that's what drives me to learn about this stuff anyway. And that's where, I think it's called the Dunning-Kruger effect, which is this idea that people that learn more think they know less. And I think I saw an explanation of this, that imagine knowledge like a circle. And the more you know, obviously the more expanded your circle becomes. But the more expanded your circle becomes, the like longer the circumference of that circle, the edge of what you don't know gets bigger and bigger also. And so do you get what we both mean, Jacob? Is you sort of, are you more clear on this?
I'm more clear, but just for the people listening and myself, to fully understand, what do you mean by the map is not a territory? And also, when you said we see something flipped around, when you meant that, I don't understand what that means.
Okay. So the flipping thing is like simple, just like vision biology. That actually the image that the retinal cells in your eye, like the light that they detect, that image starts in your mind actually flipped upside down, and your brain flips it back to the sort of visual field that you actually see. It's kind of crazy. Yeah. I think that should do with the refraction of the light in the eye. I don't know. I might be chatting shit. I'm not a biologist. But what was your other bit? The map is not the territory. Yeah. That's, I think it's Korzybski's quote, a philosopher. What that basically means, Jacob, is what you think the world is and what the world actually is are two very different things. In the same way that if you were a pirate trying to map out a desert island, you could draw a map on a bit of parchment, but it's like saying that the map on a bit of parchment is actually the island. It's not, but you have to use the map to navigate the island. The same way that, I could tell you that the sky is blue or whatever, and that's a map, that's a fact, that's a model that you use to go, oh yeah, the sky's blue. But do you understand why it's blue, or how that's come about, or what shade of blue is it, and how has it always come to be that way? What's the physics going on there? What's the chemistry that's making me see it in this way? That would be the territory, the thing as it is. But you need you would understand in terms of you need the left hemisphere model that's broken down and taken out of its context.